Hi everyone, welcome back to Aidans Railways. Today I'm going to be fitting some etched nameplates to some of my locomotives. Many of you who watch the channel regularly will actually know that my personal layout that I'm building is actually based very loosely on Longmoor's military railway, and I have quite a collection now of Longmoor locomotives, and there's more still coming on the way and things like that. While I speak about that, I want to say a big thank you to Aidan, who contacted me on Twitter the other day. He views the videos quite regularly and comments. He contacted me whilst I was busy doing something, and luckily he did when the Bachmann announcements were made, and mentioned the fact that they were actually producing the J94, another Longmoor loco, and there was also another one as well. There's an army liveried wagoner, I think it is, which was actually, it's another Longmoor loco, just not in their livery. But thanks to Adrian, because with you getting in touch with me, I was straight in touch with the model shop to get pre-orders in. But as many of you will know, I've actually got quite an extensive amount of J94's as it is. I'm sure there are people who have them far more than me, but the collection is rapidly increasing. Hornby only ever produced, as far as I'm aware, 3 of the Longmoor locos, and one of them had its nameplates on it, McMurdo. They weren't etched or anything, they were just plastic printed nameplates fitted to it. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to fit the nameplates that, quite frankly, are missing from one loco that Hornby produced, and I'm going to be fitting nameplates to another one of the Longmoor logos. Now that one, people may remember from a previous video, was actually bought from Hatton's second hand, and someone had removed the LMR from the locomotive, and they'd removed the running number that was there and replaced it with, I think it was a number 3 on both sides and on the buffer beams. The plan was always to put it back to how it should have been, but also renumber it. I've done that. I've renumbered it. Did it a while ago. I didn't do a video, but that's been done. So today is about fitting these etched nameplates, making a small bracket to hold them with, and it is very simple. So you don't need to be afraid or scared of doing it. A lot of people get very worried, and they'll try double-sided sticky tape, which is great for certain models, blue tack if you don't want it to be permanent. These are going to be fixed. They are going to be fixed. So we're going to do that today, and there's going to be a number of videos coming up in relation to these J94's, because there are, like I say, more on the way, and they need to be renumbered and given new identities. So I'll be doing another video in the future on renumbering them, actually removing the existing numbers and renumbering them. But for the time being, we'll move down to the bench, and we'll have a look at fitting these nameplates. So these are the 2 locomotives that I'm going to work on today. This one's had no modifications at all. This one was a second-hand buy from Hatton's. I'll flash an image up from a previous video to give you an idea exactly what it looked like when it arrived. It had had its LMR lettering removed, and it had had its numbers removed, and it had been replaced with, I think it was a number 3. It was always the actual situation that it was going to have the LMR replaced and a number put on it, and at the time I'm not too sure what number I was planning on, but I've actually gone with 118, which is Brussels. Now there are going to be people out there who are going to start screaming and saying, "Oh, Brussels is an oil-fired locomotive." Well, if you have a look in the future videos that I'll be doing, Brussels wasn't always oil-fired. It's had quite a number of guises as to how it looks with its tank, with and without Westinghouse pump, oil-fired and coal-fired. It's over its time at Longmoor, it looked very different from year to year. So I've gone with it still being a coal-fired, and I do have a Westinghouse pump to fit to it, but we won't be doing that today. That's another video. But what I have done is I have replaced the lettering, as we can see, on both sides, and that was very simple. That was just Fox transfers, as always. If you're curious as to which one I used, it was pack FG1823. But I got the transfers for that and placed on the LMR, which went on incredibly easily. So it already started to look like it was back to its old self. However, when the previous owner had messed around taking away its Longmoor identity, they'd actually caused little bits of damage to where they'd replaced numbers and things like that. So although not brilliant, by the time I flashed over a bit of sleeper grime, something like that, just to give it a little bit of a dirty look at the bottom end, any imperfections should be drastically reduced. So like I say, I went down with 118. That was a different pack. I believe I used, yes, this one, which is the Fox Transfers pack FG1800, just for the numbers there. And that was actually just a pack I had lying around, so it was close. Wasn't quite Carling, but it was close. And it'll do the job. I since painted over the buffers, buffer beam I should say, to get rid of the number that the previous occupant had put on as well. So to all intents and purposes, it was given the identity of 118, which was great, but I then had to start looking for nameplates without having to order ones specifically made. And Model Master, I'll put a link in the description, get yourself on there. They actually do 3 sets of nameplates currently for Longmoor locomotives, and I've been in touch with them, and I've actually got a list of nameplates I would like them to supply me with. But the ones they had in stock that they actually do, they've got Errol Lonsdale, Brussels, and they do in actual fact do Gordon. So, but I picked up Gordon's because they were there, and I thought, while I'm ordering the other 2, I'll get them anyway. And then when it comes to doing a DGH kit, I've got a set of nameplates already. So they're very small, they're very thin. If you haven't worked with them before, they come in a little, as you can see probably in this one, they come in a little sort of frame that you need to cut out, and it advises you use these nail clippers. It was an old set there. I actually found that they were a bit more difficult to use, and I ended up using a pair of these, which it worked really, really easily with. And you can see here, I'll just bring that up the camera, whether or not it's going to focus in on that. There we go. So there's Errol Lonsdale's plates cut out of their little frames, and that's fine, but there's nowhere to fix them. Now, unlike the one locomotive Hornby produced with nameplate on, which was McMurdo, that nameplate is right on the edge. Whether or not you can see that or not, I don't know, but it is right on the edge of the frame. It's not even set back slightly. Something else I found out through doing research through the books on Longmoor, not all of them had a red background, some of them had a black background, and so on the nameplates. So I'm not making a Longmoor Railway, I'm making an interpretation of something. So the fact that these have got a black background and those have got a red background just doesn't faze me at all. So today's little project is to fit these nameplates to the locomotives. Obviously they are just an etched plate, they're nothing else, so I've had to improvise as to how I'm fixing them to the locomotive. And what I've got here is some evergreen plastic. It's the L shape. I actually bought slightly larger than what I needed, what I required, so I very simply cut it to the length I required, and then all I've done is actually cut it down to the height that I required on one side, just to hold the plate in place. And you might be able to just see here on this. You're able to see I've just cut it down so that it's got a slightly lower height. I've then since painted them black so that they'll fit in where they're going to be on the locomotive. All I used for that was some Humbrol acrylic satin 85, left it overnight so that it cures really very well onto the plastic. So I've already cut them, I've already painted them. The only thing left to do is to now fit the plates to the brackets I've made and then fit the brackets to the locomotive. It sounds very easy, it's fraught with danger. Model Master recommend using a Evo stick. I don't have any Evo stick and I don't really want to be going out and buying any more stuff, so this could be a rather dangerous learning curve. What I would normally do is use a piece of this wire, which I can just say make out by putting it over the white card. It's very thin. It's very similar to what I've been using on the A4 O gauge project. It's not from that. It's actually left over from the 009 kits that I made during lockdown. I think it was meant to be used for couplings and things like that, and it's a bit of spare. So what I'd normally use is something like that, a bottle of generic super glue, because you're not going to go pouring it onto the items that you're going to be fixing in this case. I literally use this rod as a dipping stick to get the amount required, apply it to either this bracket or the nameplate, fit them together, and then just keep them together for a little while until it's sort of started to bond. It will be the smallest amount of super glue possible just to get it in place and hold it. Once fitting it to the locomotive, I won't be using super glue. I will actually be using the tiniest bit of liquid poly. Remember, this stuff is just like polystyrene, and it bonds together very quickly. It melts the stuff, so you only need a very small amount, and I mean very small amount, to do it. So I'll probably put a little bit of music in the background because there's no point in listening to me heavy breathe whilst trying to put this together. So I'll put them together and then we'll come back and different stages once I've fitted them to the brackets, and we'll have a look, see how well that's worked, and then I'll go back to actually fitting them to the locomotives. Yes, so I can tell you that these things now, these set incredibly quickly as you do them. So it's just making sure you've got everything ready when you come to do it. So I'm going to give them a few more minutes to dry. As soon as they're dried, I'm going to move on to the locomotives themselves. So I've had a small test fit. I've just had a quick look at where I want to position them, and what I'm going to do for all of them is I'm going to aim, because I had a quick look at McMurdo. I'll just bring it into the picture here, and you can see the name is pretty much central with the M above it. So that's my plan for the rest of them. I'm going to try and line up the nameplates, for the centre of the nameplate to be in line with the M above it. In this case, we have got the reversing lever coming down this side of the locomotive. It's actually worked in my favour because I want, unlike McMurdo, which was factory fitted from Hornby, I want to have them back about 1 mil to 2 mil from the edge of the actual running board there, the running plate. So I'm going to bring them back about 1 mil to 2 mil, and weirdly enough, the actual little brackets that I have made to hold the etched nameplates in place actually lines up with the back of the reversing gear. So if I do that, I can line that one up perfectly. Obviously on the other side it's going to have to be freehand. This is a bit of a nightmare to video, so I will video as I'm doing it. It might not be very clear, but I thought I would explain as to what I'm going to do. Now, in order to fix these to the locomotive, on the base of the bracket I've made, I'm going to put a very small part of poly cement or liquid poly from Humbrol onto it, and it'll be enough just to bond it to the locomotive without causing any damage. So I'll move on to that part now. There we go, we've got Longmoor's Errol Lonsdale. Gone on really nicely, really easily. Happy with that one. And over here we've got Longmoor's Brussels. Gone on very nicely and easily. These two here are the factory ones. No work to be done on them. Errol Lonsdale, there's a couple of things that need to go on to Errol Lonsdale, so that'll be in another video. Brussels has got some items, a few pipes, and trying to think now, a few pipes, a tank, and also the Westinghouse pump. Now, in the meantime, there's these two locos. There's actually another 3 of them on the way, and obviously we've got these 2 as well. One of them's going to stay the same, and one of them is going to be renumbered. The 2 Longmoor locos that I just showed on screen, plus the other 3 that are on their way, they all need to be renumbered, and hopefully I'll have an answer soon for my etched nameplates, and I'll be able to get the nameplates onto them. In the next video in relation to the J94's, I'm going to be renumbering at least 2 locos, possibly 3, and I'll take you how I'm removing the existing numbers and then putting all new waterside transfers on. So if you've never done it before and haven't aligned them up one number at a time, it could be an interesting video for you. But for the time being, thank you for watching. I hope this has helped you if you've thought about putting nameplates on the locos, not necessarily these, and that kind of thing. It's not as scary as it seems. Just take your time, use the smallest amount of glue humanly possible, and it is actually quite easy. Also, let me know what you think about the LMR that I placed on here after it had it all removed. Numbers aren't great, but like I said, after a bit of weathering, it won't really matter. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye now.